3 interceptions of Russell Wilson yesterday by the Houston Texans. The defense delivers the win 22-17 over the Broncos. Texans are now 7-5. Technically on the outside looking in, but there's still 5 games to go. Oh, well, the Texans beat the Steelers. How are they not above the Steelers? Well, when you have more than 2 teams at 7-5, there's different tiebreakers that apply. Don't worry about it. You keep playing like you're playing, you're going to be one of the teams that make it. Either the Browns or the Steelers or both are going to slide right out of this thing, and it's going to open the door for the Texans. They're playing too well to not ultimately get into the mix, and it's amazing to see them doing it both sides of the ball. They're balanced. They've got 2 great rookies, maybe offensive and defensive rookie of the year. People are starting to realize Will Anderson.
He's everywhere.
Maybe forget about Jalen Carter, forget about Devin Witherspoon.
No,
all
Will's
due
coming on
respect,
strong.
Will Anderson is the guy who's carrying the day.
No doubt about it. You know, we talk about it a lot, right? F up the play stats, all that. Will Anderson's everywhere. A little on pressure on the on the quarterback, but the ability to disrupt the run game, his instincts. You know, I talked a little bit about it on my podcast last week. Mike, he's a guy. He's got no regard for his body. He fits that 49ers DeMeco Ryans type of mold on the defense. Coach, right? We'd like you to run through the wall. No problem, coach. Here I go. Boom. And he runs through it before you get it out of your mouth, right? The Texans defense, like you said, they won the game. That's where I think it's encouraging for the Houston Texans football team. C.J. Stroud was awesome. He made a ton of big plays. Again, 16 completions for 274 yards. It just tells you when he drops back to pass, they're dropping the hammer on people. But it was a day where, you know, their run game was good, but it wasn't special. They couldn't dominate that way. The Broncos defense that we have seen, right, has been playing well lately. They tightened up in the end zone a bunch of times, you know, forced the Houston Texans for 3 field goals. We haven't seen people do that to Houston. But ultimately, you know, like you said, young guys, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, poor Tank Dell broke his leg. That stinks, who was, you know, a draft pick from last year. But how about last year's draft? And Derek Stingley and what he did for the football team, right? I mean, 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter, all on Russell Wilson, who had been playing his best football in the clutch moments through this 5 or 6 game win streak by the Denver Broncos. And this was a Will Anderson tip pass.
But great adjustment by Derek Stingley Jr. to make that catch.
Right?
Unbelievable.
Ball was like a curveball.
Juggles it a little bit, holds it off the turf.
Great job. They go in, they get the score that put them up 22-10. Then, it feels like Denver's got the momentum back, and Cortland Sutton's running wide open down the middle of the field. What a play by Stingley.
Coming over from the zone on the other side, sees the ball.
Undercuts it.
Right, that's the cover 3, right?
Cover 3,
he's got that side of the field, and then the ball's in the air, and boom, there he goes.
Right.
And he looked like the receiver. That's what I asked him about last night.
Yeah.
The ball skills, he says he's been working on it since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
Always working on ball skills, because we see that so many times with defensive backs. We find out why they play defense.
Yeah, right.
Inevitably. They miss, it bounces off their
Hand-eyes, not always
face.
their best.
Yeah.
Right.
It's unbelievable to see what he's doing. And then that play at the end of the game, when the Broncos were just, it felt like, oh boy, they're going to do this.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it.
They're going to do this.
You felt like, oh, they hung around. It's 22-17, right? The offense hadn't done anything. Denver, didn't run the ball all that well. Really, when you look at the Denver offensive output, and if you go back and watch the game, the game is really like, it's 3 big passes from Russell Wilson. Now, other than that, Denver didn't do anything on the offensive side of the ball. So that was all there was to really be said about it. And there you went, oh, there goes Cortland Sutton again for another chance for a big pass here. Stingley makes a phenomenal play, showing why they drafted him as the number 2 pick. And I think we're starting to see, the fruits of that labor, which is really cool for them. But, yeah, Houston, complete football team. And I think that's the thing that's encouraging as you continue to watch this. We've seen the run game come out. We, of course, see C.J. Stroud every week. We've seen special teams at one point of the year. And now we're seeing the defense take over in some big moments. And, yeah, they don't win that game yesterday without the defense. And the fact that you held Sean Payton and Russell Wilson to 0 for 11 on third downs, what? That's pretty special in itself. Complete football team in Houston. And, man, I want them in the playoffs. I think they're fun. They're fun to watch. They fly around the field, and that quarterback to me is about as fun to watch as anybody in football right now.
Unless they get flexed into a Sunday night, Thursday night, or Monday night game, they will have played every game this year at 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. This game was supposed to be 4:05.
That's right.
And at first, when it got moved to 1, people were like, oh, that's a slap in the face. No, it was a way to put it in a bigger spot because it would have gotten lost in the whole 49ers Eagles shuffle. It would have been the equivalent of Panthers-Bucks yesterday, which
it
that
was
game
only
even
on
happen?
in your area.
Yeah,
right.
So this had we posted a link to the map. 506sports.com had the map. Most of the country geographically
got to see that. I saw you wrote that. Yeah, that's cool.
So it's good for the Texans, and they get to the playoffs, and everybody will get to see C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson.
Nico Collins.
Maybe there will be offensive and defensive rookie of the year. C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, Nico Collins getting it done. It is unfortunate Tank Dell. It was obvious when it happened. He got bent backward down near the goal line.
Yep.
It was obvious he had a serious injury. Fractured fibula, expected to be out for the year, but they've still got the weapons because CJ Stroud can. I asked Derek Stingley, like at what point did the light go off that you could be a playoff team? Because none of us believed. They were the first team out in the AFC this year. What's the one team that you're confident has no shot? The Texans.
Right.
Okay, and it's not like that was a hot take. Everybody who pays attention to the game would have said that. He said, the moment we got C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, that's when I knew.
Wow. I mean, listen, by the picks of 2 and 3, you hope it has the effect that we thought it might, that it'll change their organization around. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, right? And C.J. Stroud, even though I had him in a tier by himself coming out in the draft, he's still blown me away for what he's doing as a rookie. Will Anderson is probably the most pleasant surprise of the draft. He was a guy that I was a little underwhelmed, and I think a lot of people were when you watched him on film last year at Alabama, but played a little out of position. I think they made him put on some weight because he had to play a little bit more of a run-stopping role in the Alabama defense last year, where now they're like, hey, lose some weight. All you got to do worry about is get wide and go after the quarterback. They've simplified the game. He's explosive as hell. He's got the instincts and physicality that we talk about. And, hey, guys, play that clip again of C.J. Stroud, because just would like to point that out. One, Nico Collins is slowly butting into one of the better receivers in football, number one, because he can beat you with speed. He's got very good size. He's fearless over the middle. But you see here, I mean, he can run away from you. But this play right here, this is C.J. Stroud. The pop in the pocket, moves around, eyes downfield, and gets the ball out of his hands so quickly that Patrick Surtain, who's maybe the best corner in football, can't even react to it. And then this throw here, an in-cut that was, as you heard me say in the viewing room, I think that was no look. It was. I think it was a little bit look over here and do this, right, down the middle of the field. I'm amazed with C.J. Stroud and some of these guys on the Houston Texans and what DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio have done to turn around that franchise.
Well, and DeMeco Ryans bringing that winning attitude, DNA from the 49ers. That's part of what Derek Stingley Jr. talked about, the belief that they have in themselves, the faith that they have in the coaching staff to put them in the right spot at the right time, and it worked yesterday. And the defense asserted itself yesterday and allowed the Texans to end what was a 5-game winning streak. Russell Wilson didn't have a single interception during the 5-game winning streak, and he had 3 in the fourth quarter yesterday. Sometimes when the bubble pops, it pops with a bang. Now, the Broncos aren't done. They've got some interesting games coming up. They still could make it. But, boy, that cluster of teams, do we have the AFC playoff picture? That cluster of teams. And at one point last week, it dawned on me, maybe the 3 teams with the best quarterbacks are the ones we should be watching, the Texans, the Broncos, and the Bills.
Yeah.
And right now, all 3 of those teams are still technically in the hunt.
But you couple that with 5, 6, and 7, who are at 7 and 5.
Steelers lose at home and get embarrassed by the Cardinals.
Right.
And Kenny Pickett's out 2 to 4 weeks. He's going to have surgery today on his ankle that he aggravated yesterday. The Browns are down to Joe Flacco,
who did some good things.
Right. And maybe he rides it out the rest of the way. The Colts are the only one that I think maybe would hold one of those 3 spots just because of that whole Gardner Minshew magic, and nobody expected anything of them.
Offense has some other answers.
Wouldn't it
they
be
don't have to totally depend on him.
Wouldn't it be something if the AFC South puts 3 teams in the playoffs?
It would be. And I don't think it's far-fetched to think that can happen right now. But yeah, I mean, I look at it there and go 5 and 6 are wobbly for sure, and I want to see if they can hold down the fort. Can Pittsburgh and Cleveland continue to win football games 17-14 with underwhelming passing attacks? We'll see where it goes from there. Flacco was good yesterday until a late game interception, but But, yeah, you look at Houston, Denver with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and now Buffalo, of course, with Josh Allen. You look at them at the 8, 9, and 10 spot, and you go, yeah, they got a legitimate chance. And, then the rest of it is, Cincinnati's right there behind them, but with no Joe Burrow, I don't know. They'll be a pain in the butt, but I don't see them making a real run at this thing. So I look at those top 10 teams and to be the ones that really fight it out here, and that 5 through 10 is up for grabs right now.
And really, the AFC, more than the NFC, the AFC feels like if you punch your ticket, anything can happen. The teams are flawed. The Ravens are the best team right now, but
we've
got
seen them have moments
in the postseason. They've
been special.
That's where remember when the Bengals every year were getting to the playoffs and they'd lose, and it became a narrative, it became a thing, it became a pressure point. And that's what's going to happen when the Ravens get to the playoffs. They're going to be faced with questions. Lamar Jackson is going to be
one playoff game.
Yeah, exactly. And now that we're into December, there's that question that's hovering of, is he going to get injured again? So that's always going to be there. There isn't a team that feels like, wow, they're head and shoulders above the rest in the AFC.
Miami has moments of that, but they haven't done it against a good team. I know, so that's where it's weird.
So it just has that sense, that vibe that it's wide open.
Yep.
More wide open than the NFC, because the NFC, it feels like 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles, and maybe it's just 49ers at this point.
We'll see. Detroit might have something to say about that.
I don't think so. We'll probably talk about it at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. Superlatives time, which is kind of a fancy way of saying we'll address some of these other games in an order that we'll determine during the break. We'll do that next here on PFT Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.